Hi there, this is Mike again. So with the first video we kind of looked at how to structure our web page with basic HTML coding. So in this video I want to go in and add some style, I want to add some color, I want to go in and add an image. So we're just going to enhance our basic web page by looking and introducing style sheets. Now one thing about style sheets, and it's also called CSS cascading style sheets, is that you basically form the style for the page, and then anywhere that tag is, it looks at the style that you have created and it's going to go in and implement that style. This is going to allow for consistency, and when it comes to professional web page design, consistency is the key from one page to the next. Most websites are going to use what we call the external style sheet. Every page is linked to this sheet so it can have the correct style. So you just go to the external style sheet and make one change, and it's going to cascade out to the other pages. For this assignment, since I'm only working with one page, I'm only going to put the style within the web page itself, the page I'm working with. We're going to keep it in line with the web page. And to do that, we're going to put the tag, the style information up in what we call the head section up here at the top. Now it doesn't matter where you place it in the head section. You can place it before the title, you can place it afterwards, it really doesn't matter. So we're going to indicate to the browser by putting in the style tag. So here we have to put in the word style within the brackets, so this indicates to the browser that you're adding a style sheet to it. Then every tag has its own set of attributes. These attributes help define the properties of the tag. So we're going to put in the attribute of text, and it's going to be followed by equal sign, and then in quotations you type in text/CSS, and now you put the greater than symbol in to finish it off. This indicates to the browser that you're using the formatting style for cascading style sheets. Now I'm going to you always have the closing style, so I'm going to put that in automatically so we don't forget. So I'm going to put the /n style. Now what I want to do here is I want to go in and affect the main text that we have here. So I want to add a background. So over here on the right you can see it's a white background, so I want to add a little purple background to it. Then I want to make some changes to the main text on the page as well. So the thing about that you have to understand is that anything within the style section up here, you're going to put in the tags from the main web page. So if you want to make a change to something, you have to tell what tag that you're making a change to. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to add a color to the background to the body page. So I'm going to put in the body tag, and I'm not going to put in the brackets. Leave it alone. You don't put in the body, you don't put the brackets in, because this is not part of the web page. This is part of cascading style sheets. Now after you type in the body, you have to basically tell it what styles you're going to add, and you have to put in the curly brackets. And these curly brackets are to the left of the letter P on your keyboard. So I start that off. I'm going to press my return key. It just helps it easier to read and edit my styles when I go back to. So I usually try to put styles on each individual line. So if I need to go back and make a change, it makes it easier to see. And so I'm going to add an attribute here that adds a background color. And it's very simple to remember on this one. You type in background color. Now background color is followed with a hyphen in between. Now you tell it to style, then you have to put in a colon to then indicate what the color you're going to be working with. And in this case we're going to use what we call as a hexadecimal number for our color. It's a better way for websites to determine what the color is. So if you go out on a website and search hexadecimal colors, you'll come up with some websites that will actually allow you to take the hexadecimal, copy it over, and it's just a mathematical way to define the color. So I'm going to go in and put in a pound sign, which is needed for hexadecimal. And hexadecimal is usually 6 characters long. Now once that style is done, you have to tell it to end, and you do it by a semicolon. So if you're going to add multiple styles, this is where the browser needs to have that semicolon, because it doesn't know if you have a next style coming up. So I'm going to press my return key, and I'm going to make a change to the font of the main page. So I'm going to put in the style called font family. I'm going to put the colon sign in. Think of the colon sign as equals. Background color equals this. Font family equals this. And then all I'm going to do here is type in the word Arial. And I'm going to follow it with a semicolon. Don't forget to put in the end curly bracket. So what we're saying here is that anything in between here, it's going to apply that style to the body tag that's on your main page. So let's see what it looks like. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to refresh it over here in our main page. You'll notice a slight change to the font and notice the purple background. Now what I want to do, let's add another tag. So I want to make the title change color up here at the top. Maybe I want to, or maybe I just want to make just a slight modification to it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in H1, because that's where the Princess of Mars is. It's the H1 tag. Then I'm going to put the curly bracket in. Now I want to change the color of text. So you're not going to use background color, because the background color changes the color behind the text. So to change the color of text, you just simply use the word color. And again, you can apply the word color to any of your tags and it will change the color of the text within that tag section. So here I'm going to put a color colon. I'm going to put a pound sign in. I'm going to put in F, 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 semicolon. Now you can also go in and I'm going to add a bottom border to the bottom of the title. So we're going to add just an extra style. So I'm going to put in the word border, hyphen, bottom, colon, and I'm going to apply two styles to the bottom border. So there's sometimes some of these attributes that you implement in, you can actually apply multiple styles to it. To indicate that, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in 2px. That tells me the height that it needs to be. Make sure you do not have any spaces between the 2 and the unit. So make sure you type in 2px. Then if you're going to have another style applied to the border bottom, then you put your space in, and I'm going to make sure it's a solid border. So you can actually have like a dash border if you wanted to. So all I'm doing here is I'm applying two styles to the bottom border. It has to be a certain width, certain height I should say, and it's going to be a solid. And when you have multiple like this, you separate it by a space. That's the reason why you don't want a space between the 2 and the px, because the browser won't know what you're doing. So I'm going to put in a semicolon to end that style, and then I'm going to put in an end curly bracket here. So let's save it. Let's refresh it over here, and notice that my white text and my white border. So we're just making certain things stand out. That's all. That's all. So another thing you could do, a lot of people don't pay attention to, is that if you want to apply the same style to the same tag, to multiple tags I should say, you can actually put it right together within the style sheet. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in H3, comma, P. So if you want to apply the style to 2 or more tags, you got to put the commas in. That's the key. I'm going to put the bracket in, and in this case what I'm going to do is I'm just going to increase the margin. So notice how the text is aligned to the left edge of the screen here. I'm going to move it over to the right so it's not aligned perfectly. Sometimes it makes it harder to read. So I'm going to put in margin, and in this case I'm going to make sure it's on the left side, so I'm going to put in the hyphen left, colon, 120px. Again, make sure you do not have any spaces between the 120 and px. It won't come out. I'm going to save this. I'm going to refresh. And notice how that indents the paragraphs of text over to the right. So now we're getting a nice little structure compared to what we had before. So every tag that you have in your web page, you can actually have a style for it. And there's multiple more styles that you can actually implement in. And so that's the reason why you have to look into cascading style sheets in more detail. Yes, there's more attributes that you can work with, and it might take a little longer time to memorize it, but you don't have to memorize them. There's cheat sheets out there, there's books out there that you can just look up quickly and find what the attribute is and what you need to put in. But remember the structure. You have to have, for example, you have to have the tag, curly bracket, you have the style, colon, semicolon. So you got to put that in that set structure. So lastly, what I'm going to do is I want to put an image in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come down here before the first paragraph of text, and I'm going to use the IMG tag. So it's simply just type in IMG, and it has an attribute called SRC. The SRC is the source. You have to tell it where the image is that you're going to be using. So I'm going to put the source in, and I'm going to put an equal sign. I always put the equal sign in, and then in quotations, the name of the file. And this is one of the only tags that you won't need a closing tag. You know, IMG, you will not need a closing tag. There's no need for it because you're just inserting one object in. Now, the way I have it typed in here, so you have to understand the basic structure of working with images in a web page. Anytime you have an image on a web page, you have to upload the image to the web server as well. If you don't, no one will be able to find the image. So when you go in and you indicate the code here that, hey, we're going to be using the ball.png image, that ball.png image needs to be uploaded to the same folder as your home page. Now typically that's not the situation in most websites. We tend to put all our images into one folder, like the images folder, to keep it organized. And if that's the case, then you have to indicate that that image is in that folder on your server. That can be done by putting in a slash followed by the name of folder and by another slash. So in this case, it's going to look on my web server and it's going to look at the folder called images to find ball. Now in this case, my assumption is that the ball image is already in the same folder as this mars.htm. So when I save this and I refresh it, it should find the image automatically. Now what's interesting here is you can see that all this empty space right above it, and the text itself that we have right here is lined at the bottom of the image. That's by default. So you might want to utilize all this space up here, and what we're going to do is very simple. I want to turn on what we call a text wrap option. It allows the text to wrap around the graphic. And I can do that by adding a style to the image tag. So I'm going to come back up here to the style section. I'm going to type in IMG followed by a curly bracket, and the attribute that will allow you to have a text wrap is called float. So I'm going to type in the word float, colon, left, semicolon. Then don't forget a curly bracket to close it. Watch what happens here. I'm going to save it, refresh it, and actually I made a mistake because look here, I did not put the semicolon in, I put a colon instead, so that's fine. That's why I have both on sides, so I can troubleshoot. If it doesn't work, I'll go back and see what did I do wrong. And it's always you miss a bracket, you miss a colon or a semicolon. So let me save it again. I'm going to refresh it one more time, and notice the text wraps around the graphic because of this one little attribute. Watch what happens here if I change left to right. Save it, refresh. Now it's on the right side and the text is wrapping around it. So it helps you to better utilize the space on your page. So again, here we introduce a little bit of style sheets. we introduced a little bit of the image, how to bring it in, and then we went back in and we modified an image tag with a style. So hopefully this gives you a better understanding how to work with basic coding so far and creating a web page. And I wish you best of luck.